Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Along with that, we're aware that this meeting is being recorded by the Fall River Educational Television. That being said, could we have roll call attendance, starting with
Louis Gonzalez.
Joe Marshall.
John Erickson here.
Ann Keen here. Joan Medeiros.
Okay. Also participating is Sarah Page, our Executive Director, John Coughlin, our Counsel, and Ken Fiola, Administrative Service Consultant. First item on the agenda is 589 and 599 Commerce Drive. Attorney Peter Salino will present requests to take several actions regarding a mortgage on property to facilitate the sale of the property.
That is correct. Thank you. For purposes of the record, my name is Peter Salino. My office is located at 550 Locust Street here in Fall River. I was before the board approximately 2 weeks ago on this matter, and at that time the board allowed an amendment to the original LDA land disposition agreement for the subject property to decrease the amount of building square footage that was going to be allowed to facilitate the purchase of the property by McKell. And since that time, the closing attorney for this project has reviewed that paperwork and wanted further changes. So the substance of the changes are as follows. He wants a document that indicates that this board approves of the buyer, meaning McKell, that Crown Commercial has otherwise complied with the LDA, and that the mortgage that is securing the LDA be discharged and then be re-recorded in the name of the new buyer. So the asks are those four things. So we've presented to Attorney Coughlin the discharge of the current performance mortgage, the second amendment to the LDA to encapsulate those other requests.
Are there any questions of Attorney Salino? No? Hearing no questions, I'd like a vote to authorize the chair to execute a second amendment to the land disposition agreement held by Crown Commercial Properties, LLC, that confirms that Crown is in good standing under the LDA and approves the sale of the land to Spartan BSMS Holding, LLC, and to authorize the chair to execute a discharge of Crown's performance mortgage in exchange for a new performance mortgage granted by Spartan BSMS Holding, LLC. Is there a vote?
So I move we direct the chair to approve a second amendment to the agreement.
And the discharge.
And the discharge.
And the discharge.
Right, as I said. Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Joan Medeiros, second. Any discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
In favor.
Okay. Okay, so moved.
So,
Okay,
You all
thank you.
set? Attorney Salino?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I come see you, John?
That being done, we'll need to take the meeting out of order and hold the executive session at this point to ensure council is present. The chair, myself, makes a finding that an open session would have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. Roll call vote to enter into executive session on our agenda for the below real estate item on the agenda and to approve the August 25th executive session minutes and to return to open session. Is there well, we'll take the roll call vote. We'll start with you.
do you need a motion and a second to take that?
Okay, is there a motion to do what I said? Motion by Ann.
Second.
Second by Johnny. Roll call vote.
Louis Gonzalez, yes.
Yes. Joe Marshall, yes.
John Erickson, yes.
Ann Keen, yes. Joan Medeiros, yes.
Yes. Okay, that being said, we can go into executive session. And financial report. I received a copy. I'd like to assume everyone received a copy. Is there any discussion, any questions? None?
No.
None? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the warrant?
I move we approve the warrant.
John, second?
Second.
Second, Ann. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Sarah, why don't you take us through the city pier and actually the other items?
I was just going to say on the financial issues that we're completing the 2019 audit.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as we finish it, we're going to bring you a new letter from the accountant to try to start the 2020
Good.
audit. And it's been great to have Paula helping find everything. There were numerous things we had to find, and she's just been working through it. And so I'm confident that we're getting that done, which is a huge relief.
Thank you.
So I'm going to be talking with John tomorrow about sending a letter.
John Coughlin?
John Coughlin,
Yeah.
our attorney, to potentially send a letter to our contractor because the work is being done much more slowly than we expected, and we will reference our contract and see what we can do about changing that and getting the crews out there that we expected.
The city pier?
Yep.
Okay.
We had been told 2 crews would be out there soon after Labor Day, and we have not seen that. We have just minimal amounts of work being done. So, the good news is that Beta filed an extension request on our behalf with the DEP for our waterways license, and it was turned around within a few hours, and we got the approval. And, you know, not that we thought we wouldn't get the approval, but it was in record time. And, but it did note what we had already put on the agenda and knew, that we would have to go back for a new waterways license, or Chapter 91 license, if we want to do anything more than the use that we had defined, which was passive recreation. And so if we want to do food truck nights and have events and concerts, we need to go back to them and get a new license. And we don't think that's going to be a problem, but we will need to have Beta involved, and we'll need to go through that process. And Ken and I have been talking about the fact that it makes sense to load into that request everything that we think we might want to do,
Correct.
including the dockage. So that will require that we give it some thought and that we work through that, and that we should really do that over the winter so that we can open up
You're ready.
however we want in the spring.
Agreed.
Yep.
Ken, do you want to add to that?
Nope, I
Yep,
don't think
did
that's
it.
a good synopsis.
So,
Project updates.
so the potential buyer of Bank Street Armory is saying that he's still very interested. He's had lots of balls in the air, but he's working on the land disposition agreement that our council sent him. And so he expects to get that back to us this week, and he said it's a go. So we'll see, we'll keep working on that.
Okay, yeah, stay in touch. Okay.
With Anawan Street, I have more requests out to appraisers. Johnny gave me the name of one who seems really interested. So we're still trying to find our 2 appraisers. The one I thought we had ended up pulling out and saying that she really is more experienced with residential. And I got her to give me names of commercial appraisers, and I have more, you know, requests out to people, so I hope that we will have some luck, because we have to find someone.
Let me ask,
Yeah.
Liberty isn't pushing the issue either, right?
I don't think so, but it really worries me that,
Well,
you know, we need to make decisions about those buildings,
Agreed.
and
Agreed.
we really need to know what we want to do,
Mhm.
and the appraisal is critical to that.
Yep.
So, for the community planning and urban renewal plan for Pleasant Street, we went around and around trying to find a meeting date where the whole team that Emily has put together could come and meet with us. And we finally came up with October 12th. Unfortunately, Lewis is away.
September.
And, yeah.
Oh, no,
so
I'm sorry, you're right,
October
October.
12th. And late in the game, we also learned that our representative at Mass Housing thought she might want to join us, and so she couldn't make the 12th. So I told her that, you know, I had no idea that she would want to come, and so we're going ahead with the 12th. But what Emily and I came up with as a kind of next step is that it would make a lot of sense when her whole team again comes to do their analysis of the whole neighborhood. They'll be looking at all the properties, and they'll be fanning out to do that. We could have Francis come from Boston, we could get together, and we could either have a working lunch with them or do something after they've spent the day doing their surveying, and, you know, have a little meeting with them at the end. So I put that out to Frances to see if that would work for her. And I was sorry that Lewis wouldn't get to meet the team on the 12th, so I'm hoping, I asked him to send me dates that might work for him. We're looking at the end of October, early November, so we have plenty of time to figure this out. One thing she said is that it really is advantageous to wait until the leaves are off the trees, because then they take pictures of every single property, and, you know, you get a much better picture if there aren't leaves in the way. So they're waiting until, late October, early November.
Sarah, let me ask,
Yes.
what do you hope to accomplish on October 12th? What's going to happen on October 12th?
It's a kickoff, so we're going to lay out how they're going to approach things, the different roles the members of the team will play, so we'll get to meet them, and it will really help us just set the tone for the next year and how we'll work together. And one of the next pieces is to put together a community committee. And the mayor has given us some suggested names. We're looking for other suggestions, and we need to be putting that together over the next few weeks.
And those individuals, the intent is to get engage the community, that
Right,
neighborhood.
that neighborhood.
So that's what you're looking for, those?
Right.
Okay.
The business owners there,
Right.
residents,
Okay.
the neighborhood association.
And our representation would be Lewis and Joan?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Good. Do you-
Anything else? The next item?
The next item is collaboration on projects in the TDI district and on South Main Street. So we had an open house at Heritage Park to review boards that laid out a number of issues that would improve the business district on South Main Street. And there had been input, but it hadn't been really put out to the public. So that was an opportunity to get some comments. Linda Pereira came. Julia Gagliardi from Bay Coast Bank, who's on the TDI partnership, some of the other partners. It went out to the chamber membership because there was an event that night, so some members of the chamber came. Ken has reviewed those initial boards and has agreed to help get more property owners and businesses on South Main Street engaged at this point.
Good.
And so next week in the atrium, so they did some changes in the boards. There were a lot of comments, and they added 2 more boards, and all of those are being reprinted and coming to the atrium to be put on easels, and we're trying to get word out that people can come and look at them. They're also sending us a draft of the plan, which hopefully can get to some people to look at. It has to go to Boston by October 8th, but you have till October 22nd. If the community or the city suggests changes, you can then suggest those or make those additional changes. But the state has really delineated this whole process, and we were unhappy about some of the categories in the boards and what it made you kind of come up with, like the source of the information. Well, we were trying to fill that in, and it made no sense. So we got rid of some of the categories that the state had suggested because they didn't make sense. So it just has been a difficult process because what Jim McKeague thought when he put in the application was that we would get money to hire consultants to do some projects we were interested in. As it turned out, the state hired consultants who worked with us on a very defined process. And, you know, I think that it's been helpful. I think that we have raised a number of issues that people have raised for a long time. I don't think there's anything terribly new in there. And what I hope Ken can help work on is that we really put a good group together who can then look at this and say, here are the things that really should be prioritized, here are approaches we should take, because this plan will be big waste of time if it just sits on a shelf. And it really needs more engagement to help think about how exactly are we going to implement it.
Good, thank you. Route 79?
Do you think some of you can come and take a look at the boards? I'll send you all the plan as soon as I get it.
Where are the
And-
boards?
Well, these boards with information, you know,
Yeah.
all of these items, they're going to be in the atrium next
Okay.
week.
Okay.
Next week?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'll let you know when
Okay.
they're there.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm going to pass it on to Ken for the Route 79 discussion.
Sure. So I think since our involvement in this project, and over the last few months, you know, the messaging that we've, you know, relayed to the state as to the progress of the project, I think has been heard.
Yeah.
Okay. As you may recall, I was always of the opinion that this thing was being slow-walked, that we were not making as much progress as possible, that we couldn't get a definitive start time with regard to a construction start date or a construction completion date. Everything was always vague, milestones were slipping, nobody seemed to care, blah, blah, blah. So I know a bunch of us, myself included, amongst with other businessmen and women in the community, had the opportunity to discuss this issue with the lieutenant governor and governor at different events. Finally, there was a meeting with the governor, and the message was again conveyed to him, and he was shocked that he had been of the belief that the project was moving along, that everything was good. He looked into it further. He reaffirmed our belief that, you know, it wasn't as far along as he thought it was. He has replaced the entire team that was involved in it, and brought in a new team. I call them the A team because it was the team that was involved with the spaghetti ramps, which were done in record time. And now that same group is involved in this project. So since their involvement, which is about 8 weeks ago, we have now moved forward with, a public hearing on the project, which was held at Heritage State Park. The city has now provided comments on 25% design and review. There may or may not be a meeting this week with MassDOT to talk about some other aspects of the project as it pertains to the design-build contract, as well as the conveyance of land, once the land is being made available. And now it looks like we're looking for a construction start date sometime in the summer or fall of 2022, which is about 8 months shorter than what we were led to believe. So that's significant. That's significant progress. So this project is really accelerated. If you're driving along Route 79, you see a lot of different trucks out there. They're taking borings, they're doing analysis, they're doing certain things, they're doing engineering. So all in preparation for getting this 25% design done so that they can put out to bid. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this thing is going to happen next year as opposed to 2023, and it will be completed in 2025. So that's a good thing. It does now lead to the potential of additional work for the Redevelopment Authority in terms of making sure that they're the receiver of that land so that we can oversee its development in accordance with the master plan. But with the acceleration of the construction schedule, I think the board may want to start giving some thought to the whole master planning aspect of this thing and possibly going out for an RFP at some point in the next 3 months or so to get a consultant on board to start really taking a look at that acreage and how we can best master plan it to meet the objectives of the plans that we previously have done, but also take into account whatever changes that may have occurred over the last 15, 20 years as we were looking at the types of uses for that particular property. So that's exciting. It's real good stuff.
Yes.
This thing is coming to fruition. Unfortunately, there will be disruption for a 3-year period, but that's construction. At the end of the day, we'll have this developable tract of land, and there'll be more construction, but it's going to be ongoing construction for buildings and different things. But at the end, hopefully by if they're done in 2025, 2030, it should be pretty much built out. And they have a whole new community down there.
Yeah.
So, good stuff.
Yes.
Just got to keep the pressure on them. They've responded, and I think it's going to generate its own momentum and just continue to grow and push this thing forward to a start date.
Good, thank you. One more item? I think.
So the final item is 308 South Main Street, which I've talked with a number of you about. It's a building that is very deteriorated. It's been in tax taking for a long time. So Ken and I decided to call a meeting and really talk about how we get it inspected, because we're concerned that it's going to go to land court and become, a property of the city, and then it will need to be disposed, and we don't know whether the roof is caved in or,
Well, can you
what
share I know that
condition it
the
is.
address is
Oh,
308
right.
South Main.
It's-
Why don't you say what's in there now? Well, nothing, but.
Yeah, nothing's
but-
in there now. It's the corner of Rodman
Define it,
and
yeah.
South Main on,
That's
what
it.
is it, the west side?
West side,
West
yep.
side. And so it's been vacant for a while and is really of concern. So we pulled together the city planner, corporation counsel, the deputy chief of the fire department, and the building inspector, and talked about the process that would need to be done to get it inspected. We had hoped that it could be seen as a fire hazard, as a dangerous situation, and that they might be able to just go out and inspect. But it turned out that everyone decided that it needs an administrative warrant and needs to be taken to court for an administrative warrant. And so, so Corporation Counsel has asked Attorney Greg Brilliant to work on it, because he's done that many times for CDA. And so the building inspector and the deputy fire chief are going to write letters that will be taken to get this warrant.
Let me ask, unless it was another property I remember, didn't brick or something fall from that property?
That was across the street.
Across the street,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's actually this was on the southeast side. The other one was on the
So that's
west
the other side.
The corner, the corner's good.
Where
Southeast
where
side.
the
building,
where the billboard
side. Where
is.
the billboard and the mural is on the side of the building.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
And the columns.
Yeah, I was thinking it was the other building,
Yeah,
but that's,
sorry,
okay, no,
yeah.
all right.
So, so we just wanted to update you. Do you have any more information?
No, so, you know, I think Sarah did a nice job with this. That building has been identified for potential eminent domain taking,
Yeah.
you know, as part of the urban renewal plan. We're just trying to get a handle on it as to what the condition is of it. We can't get into the building absent this court order. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's the next step, and that's why we need to go to get that court order. And then once we're in there, we'll have a better understanding as to whether or not that building is in fact salvageable. It may not be salvageable, it could be salvageable, we just don't know at this point, and what the issue is. Now, having said that, and I don't want to go off topic, but as part of the urban renewal plan, we, as part of that plan, had indicated that we'd like to see market rate housing along South Main Street, which is, I think, a healthy thing for the downtown business district. The issue that's arising is that none of those buildings are on the historical register, or are they eligible for the historic register purposes. And without being able to tap into historic tax credits, it makes these buildings a lot less desirable for redevelopment, because you don't have the tax credits to offset your cost of the rehab. One of the things we tried to do is I tried to submit a grant to Mass Development to see, it was like $50,000 grant request to see if we can initiate a study to create a historic district. You know, right now the historic district goes up to the Academy building. We were talking about extending that historic district down to maybe Kennedy Park.
Oh,
which
wow,
is-
it's a long way.
Which is, but Kennedy Park's and also St. Anne's Church, they're both on the historic register.
Oh,
So it's like an end point, and then we
Yes.
got the space in the middle.
So to Middle Street?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah, to Middle Street.
Yeah.
So you'd have, you know, so you'd have the Academica building,
Yeah.
you'd have all these other buildings downtown, this building we're talking about, just about every building.
restaurants, yeah.
And so the advantage of being in a historic district is now you are eligible for historic tax credits.
Right, but you're limited to construction, correct?
No, just, yeah, so, just like any
So-
other project, your project would have to consist of qualified expenses that could, you know, be applicable to the historic tax credit. So, but without this designation, I don't think Fall is ready enough to take on these projects without those types of incentives from a capital stack. It just doesn't work, and when you start looking at your revenue versus your expenses, if you don't, you know, on these projects, you could easily, between state and federal, you know, on a you know, a $10 million project, you can easily get $3 million in historic tax credits, which is a great thing, and it offsets the overall cost of development. So something to keep in mind. I know that we got a lot on the table, but at some point, you know, we may want to consider doing some sort of quick study.
What's the status of the application?
It wasn't an eligible expense within their categories.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, yep. And, maybe money can come out of opera, or it can come out of something.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It may be something to keep an eye on. It's not a lot of money. You just gotta get a historic consultant to inventory the buildings and make a case as to why this should be a historic district. And most downtowns usually qualify for that. But for some reason, the city never did it, and they probably should have.
Right.
So,
Good. Anything to add? No?
Nope.
No?
So I guess the other last item is that our next meeting should be October 27th, and Joe is going to be away, so we may want to ask our vice chair to chair that meeting.
You mind, Chair?
For the winner?
No, just 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And people think the 27th is going to work as a date?
What is that, a Wednesday?
I think
Yes,
you should
it's the
put that out there.
It's the
right?
fourth-
27?
It's the
Yeah,
fourth
okay.
Wednesday of the month, and
Okay.
it happens to be the last
Okay,
Wednesday
4th, okay.
in
good.
that month.
All right, good.
Yep.
All right,
Great.
after that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Excuse me,
Oh,
Joe, you
I'm sorry.
forgot approve the minutes of the open session meeting on the 25th.
I did?
Yeah.
Is this the last agenda? Or
No,
next to the last agenda?
It was on the last agenda that I
Okay,
gave you.
Okay.
You skipped to the warrant.
I did, you're right. Okay, thank you for that. Before we adjourn, is there a vote to approve the August 25th open meeting minutes
Yes. so
anywhere?
moved.
John, second?
Second?
John, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Next, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second. John, second.
Second.
Joan, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you, everyone.